welcome to another edition of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News. Once again, I am doing a variety of different character voices until someone complains. Here's the lineup for this week. The news, of course, Community Bulletin Board, and 55 Plus News. We'll also take a look at the Town Hall meeting and a couple of other special features. That's the show. Now here's the social media reminder. You can watch us on YouTube at Arlington Weekly News and the number 1, also on Facebook, and you can listen on the radio at WERA 96.7 FM. Now, on to the news.
As of Sunday evening, September 6th, reports show the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Arlington had exceeded 3,600. Regular viewers will note the continuing increase in our reported numbers. Elsewhere, the Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority has suspended its permit for the Purple Ethiopian Restaurant and Lounge to serve beer, wine, and liquor. There were a number of incidents that brought about the suspension. The nightlife venue at 3111 Columbia Pike was the scene of a double shooting over the last weekend of August. A 33-year-old Maryland man who was wounded by armed security guards after A 33-year-old Maryland man who was wounded by armed security guards after allegedly firing into a crowd in the parking lot has been charged in the case. The Purple Lounge was also the scene of a shooting in September of 2019, in which a man was shot in the abdomen outside the venue. It was one of many complaints and violations that led the Arlington County Board to revoke the club's live entertainment permit in December. The county announced the suspension of the ABC license in the following brief statement. Following a series of disturbing events associated with the Purple Ethiopian Restaurant and Lounge, LLC on Columbia Pike, the Virginia Alcoholic Beverage Control Authority issued an order of summary suspension temporarily suspending its alcohol licenses effective September 1, 2020. Arlington County fully supports this action and will continue to work collaboratively with Virginia ABC throughout this process. The incident on Sunday morning, August 30th, at the Purple Lounge is the latest in a series of disturbances associated with the establishment. The county manager is working with the county board to explore all the options available to us within and around the property. Arlington County is a safe place to live, work, and play, and we are committed to addressing problems that present potential threats to our public health and safety. The Virginia ABC's summary of its decision to suspend the license contains additional details about the weekend shooting and another shooting earlier this summer. The report says that a triple shooting in June was the result of a dispute that started at the Purple Lounge. That's the news. Now it's time for Community Bulletin Board, or CBB.
Hello, and welcome to CBB. Our first item is Games with a Twist. The Arlington Department of Parks and Recreation has posted an invitation for teens to join them for two-man basketball at Thomas Jefferson Park. They advise the kids to bring water, but make no mention of face coverings. A phone number is provided for registration, and we'd recommend asking about face coverings as well. The number is 703-228-4747, and the activity number is 782-018-09. That's coming up on Wednesday, September 16th from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock p.m. at Thomas Jefferson Park, which is located at the Thomas Jefferson Community and Fitness Center, 3501 2nd Street South. Also, the Courthouse Book Club meets every third Thursday afternoon. This book group will meet via Zoom until further notice. Group members will receive the Zoom meeting link by email. They welcome new members to join them in reading and discussing current literary fiction, historical fiction, and some nonfiction titles. The September selection is White Rage by Carol Anderson. As might be expected, it is a book about race relations in America. The October selection is The Far Field by Madhuri Vijay. It's a novel about a young woman making her way across the Indian subcontinent with a socio-political perspective. The November selection is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This is a novel about a terminally ill young cancer patient whose life has been extended by a few years. The December selection is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is the story of a poor immigrant Korean family trying to make a new home in 20th century Japan. This is a volunteer-led book club. The library does not distribute Zoom meeting information for this event. The next meeting will be held on Thursday, September 17th from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Registration is required. You can register at https://arlingtonva.libcal.com/event/7026746. I think you can also get there through the library website. Next up, there's a bike trip for teens. The Arlington Department of Parks and Recreation has another message for teens. Let's ride! Teens ages 11 to 17, come take a bike ride with the Office for Teens. Join them on Thursday, September 17th from 4 o'clock to 5:30 p.m. at Bon Air Park. Bon Air Park is located at 850 North Lexington Street. You can call 703-228-4747 to register using activity number 782018-13, and that would also be a good time to ask them about face coverings. Finally, there's something called Native Trees for the Urban Home Landscape. The environmental benefits to the community of a healthy, well-distributed urban tree canopy depend in no small part on the efforts of thousands of homeowners to care for mature trees and plant new ones in their own yards. Extension Master Gardener Amy Crumpton will discuss best practices for caring for trees, how to assess your site's conditions for new tree plantings, and how to select from the many native trees that thrive in our area. It's an online class offered via Zoom. You can RSVP on the Master Gardeners of Northern Virginia website. You'll receive an immediate email confirmation and an additional email with a Zoom link and password 24 hours prior to the class. Then you'll get a reminder email with the link, password, and any additional materials 1 hour prior to the class. Registration closes an hour before the class begins. That's on Friday, September 18th from 10 o'clock to 11:30 a.m. Now it's time for 55 Plus News.
Let's start off with scenic bike rides. They say that these 55-plus bike rides are friendly and feature very scenic views along the Potomac River. They invite you to join them as they explore Gravelly Point. The pace will be casual, and there will be ample time for socializing with fellow riders. They say it's the journey, after all, as well as a destination. No one will be left behind, and they'll regroup several times to ensure everyone catches up and is safe. They'll meet at the Shirlington Library at 4200 Campbell Avenue. Now, to register, call 703-228-4747 and reference activity number 782-001-01. That's on Wednesday, September 16th, from 10 o'clock in the morning to 12 o'clock noon. Next item is about diabetic nutrition during a pandemic. I bet you can guess which pandemic they're talking about. They say managing diabetes in the best of times can be a struggle, but the added stress and restrictions imposed by a pandemic can make living with diabetes even more difficult. Lisa Muraz, diabetes educator for the Virginia Hospital Center, will address the challenges individuals with diabetes face because of COVID-19. You can register by emailing registration@arlingtonva.us, or you can call 703-228-4747. Just reference activity number 911500-01. That's on Thursday, September 17th, from 11 o'clock a.m. to 12 noon. Next up is called music streaming. Spotify and other music streaming services are changing the way we listen to and discover music, both new and old. Yes, you can still listen to Glenn Miller. Join volunteer Amy Collins for a walkthrough on the Spotify app and how it can work for you. The registration number is 911-403-14, and that's coming up on Thursday, September 17th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. For registration assistance, you can email registration@arlingtonva.us or call 703-228-4747. Finally, we got Acoustic Hour Online. Here's a chance to enjoy live music and fellowship from the comfort of your home. Carl Gold will perform songs from the 50s right on up to today. Great rock and roll, ballads, folk and blues. The registration number is 911-802-01, and that's on Friday, September 18th from 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. You want registration assistance, you can still email registration@arlingtonva.us or call 703-228-4747. That's it for 55 Plus News. Now let's see about that latest town hall meeting.
The virtual town hall meeting was due on Friday, September 4th, so I called Arlington County at 11 o'clock a.m. to find out the time. The last meeting had taken place on August the 7th. These meetings had originally been held weekly, but had recently been changed to a bi-weekly schedule. The August 21st meeting was canceled without notice, and there was no catch-up meeting on August 28th, so a September 4th meeting would have followed 4 weeks of silence. As before, I tuned in to the live stream on the Arlington Government Channel, hoping to find some indication of the starting time, since it had varied between 12 noon and 12:30 p.m. However, there was no information available. I called the county again at noon and was told to expect an email because the time was not yet known. I did receive an email promptly at 12:08 p.m., but the email said that there would be no meeting today and the date of the next meeting was not known. For my reporting purposes, this is not a problem because there is plenty of other news happening in Arlington. However, I wonder what the other residents must be thinking. The residents who had been participating in the meeting up until they were stopped 4 weeks ago, and who have been given no indication of when they might next be heard. Regular viewers of this program may recall our previous editorials about the county board members voting to give themselves the option of raising their own salaries, and our concern about the way they'd handled their so-called survey and list of options. However, with the weekly town hall meetings concerning the COVID-19 epidemic, I was at the point of acknowledging that they were actually earning their money with their intensified efforts. Now it appears that the public participation portion of those efforts has stopped, and I wonder why. The pandemic has not gone away. In fact, there has been a recent increase in hospitalizations. There is new signage in Clarendon warning certain patrons of a $100 fine for gathering in groups of greater than 3 people. Arlington's public schools are opening on a virtual basis, with future transition plans in doubt. Elsewhere, construction has closed off portions of the bike trails that some residents use for transportation as well as recreation. Yard waste pickup has resumed, albeit on a somewhat limited basis. There is plenty going on for citizens to ask about, but the public forum has been stopped. The mere fact of the meeting cancellations raises questions in and of itself, and no answers have been provided even for that. Not even an anticipated date for another meeting, if any. Members of the public may want to paraphrase Mayor Shin in The Music Man and ask, "Where's the board?" Now here's another update to our Signs of the Times feature. The warning signs have finally arrived in Clarendon. These are the signs along Wilson Boulevard that say, "Congregating in groups of more than 3 prohibited. 6 feet minimum. Maximum fine $100. Arlington County Code." There are other signs posted as well, such as the "We Are Covered" signs promoted at previous town hall meetings. And at Clarendon Circle, a big illuminated sign that reads, "Help Keep Arlington Safe," alternating with "Spread out 6 feet." Carefully spaced circular signs dot the sidewalk, reminding people to "Do your part. Please stay 6 feet apart." However, there are other signs of a more ominous nature, like the turned off sign at the former Clarendon Ballroom, and the sign that promises classic cigars and British goodies, but that sits above a closed down shop, and a sign above a business that can no longer even be identified. These are also signs of the times. But there's one more sign that makes me wonder. Is it already time for pumpkin spice latte? Now here's another update to a different feature that we call Out and About. September 6th promised some interesting developments along the bike trails, and some of them actually happened. The first change came when the detour on the W&OD trail at Sycamore Street was finally removed so that pedestrians and cyclists could proceed directly to North Van Buren Street. A portion of the trails was widened, and there was signage suggesting an imaginary pedestrian lane at the extreme right edge of the trail, with a little more room for cyclists to pass without encroaching as much into oncoming traffic. There were also 3 new benches added. The location of the first bench, heading west, seemed a bit strange because it was placed next to the fence beside the old soccer field, but facing away from the field, so that a person sitting there would be unable to see any oncoming stray soccer balls that might strike them in the head. On closer examination, it looks like the soccer field has been removed in favor of a tree preservation area. All 3 benches feature the middle divider that I call the anti-bum bar, which prevents people from lying down on the bench. Sadly, the bridge that continues the W&OD trail across 4 Mile Run is still blocked off, pending playground construction at Banneker Park. Sadder still, the water fountain across from Underwood Street is still turned off. The next change came a day early on September 5th, when the barriers on the Custis Trail spur were removed. It is still impossible to travel under the I-66 bridge, but at least the detour that directed pedestrians and cyclists over to Wilson Boulevard has been removed. They still have to climb the hill to cross the overpass at Kensington Street and take the winding course that leads to the long downhill, but they can then proceed to the intersection with the Washington and Old Dominion Trail. The change that prompted the closure is the addition of a miniature traffic circle that they call a roundabout. This roundabout sits in the middle of the intersection where the Custis Spur meets the 0-mile marker of the actual Custis Trail just beyond the I-66 bridge. They have modified the landscape slightly to nudge traffic to one side, but the circle itself seems more like a hazard than a safety improvement. It is elevated, like a circular section of sidewalk curb, but has no prominent visual feature or signage. Cyclists traveling downhill from the Kensington overpass might find it a skidding hazard in damp weather, but not much of a deterrent to avoiding pedestrians in dry weather. If the bridge underpass is reopened, the circle will be no deterrent at all for the cyclists who usually veer right anyway after ignoring the stop sign that had been there for years. The designers are apparently unaware of a certain trait among many cyclists. They hate to put their feet on the ground. These particular cyclists will make a considerable effort to avoid coming to a full stop regardless of obstacles, traffic, pedestrians, or perhaps especially stop signs. It may be that they honestly believe that the stop signs were placed for motor vehicles, despite the other signs prohibiting motor vehicles. This is not true of all cyclists, but it is true of enough of them to warrant additional measures, up to enforcement and fines for non-compliance with stop signs. A bicycle is legally a vehicle. The time and resources might have been better spent rebuilding the bridge across the park from the new roundabout. Meanwhile, the water fountain at the Custis W&OD Trail intersection was still turned off. At least the water fountain by the new roundabout works. Farther west, one announced change did not happen. A large illuminated sign at Little Falls Road and the W&OD Trail advertised a detour change from August 24th to September 6th. However, on the morning of September 7th, the sign was still there, along with the blockage of the trail, and the dates were unchanged. Passing cyclists made no comment, but just veered off toward the detour. A web search produced no information about a revised opening date. And that concludes this week's show. We will be back next week with more news from Arlington. along with some more on-the-ground observations. Meanwhile, be careful, be safe, and be well. Some viewers may have noticed the image of the cyclist earlier with the caption, "Can you identify this man?" That's because the Arlington County Police are actually trying to locate him. A number of complaints suggest that he has been very naughty on several occasions along the W and OD Trail in South Arlington, including exposing his rear end to pedestrians as an act of defiance. Happily, we don't have a picture of that. Anyone with additional information related to this investigation is asked to contact the police department's tip line at 703-228-4180 or ACPD tip line at arlingtonva.us. Information may also be provided anonymously through the Arlington County Crime Solvers hotline at 1-866-411-TIPS or 1-866-411-8477. Elsewhere, and on a happier note, the first day of virtual school was observed with some special imagination by local parents. There was a gathering at the normal bus stop about 30 minutes before online classes were to begin in everyone's home, and donuts were provided. Incredibly, the neighborhood dogs did not eat any of the donuts. These parents evidently realized that curriculum is only part of a child's educational experience and that interaction with fellow students could still be achieved. It was a fine example of community in action. And that's the end of the video version of this week's episode of Don Hammond's Arlington Weekly News.